My name is Mr. Nine, and today I'll be teaching you the elements of plot. I'm so excited about doing this particular lesson because this is the first time in a long time that we did some narrative stuff. Okay? So to start, let's review some vocabulary. When you're dealing with the elements of plot, the first thing you have to deal with is the setting, then the problem, then the rise in action, the climax, falling action, and then the resolution. So we're going to play a little game, a little vocabulary game. I'm going to pull the definition and you're going to help me put it with the right vocabulary word. So here we go. The first one is the highest point of action in the story. What do you think is the highest point of action in the story? If you said climax, then you would be correct. So let's put it right there. The climax is the highest point of action in a story. You're correct. Let's go to the next one. When or where a story takes place. Takes place. If you said settings, you will be absolutely correct. So let's put that right here. The setting is when or where a story takes place. What else we got? Explains, that is when the problem is solved. Explains when the problem is solved. That would be the resolution. The resolution explains, that is when the problem is solved. Next, we have the events that lead to the problem. The events. We call that the rise in action. The rise in action is the events that leads to the problem. That's what the rise in action is. We got two more. Every story has a challenge or a conflict. That would be the problem. So, boys and girls, we have the setting, is when the story takes place. The problem, every story has a challenge or a conflict. The rise in action, the events that lead to the problem. The climax, the highest point of action in the story. And the last vocabulary word are the events that lead to the solution. Right? That is fallen action. Okay, the fallen action are the events that leads to the solution of the problem. All right, now that we have our vocabulary, boys and girls, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take those vocabulary words and we're going to place them on the pie chart. Now we're going to take these vocabulary words and we're going to place them on the plot chart. So here we go. Now when you think of a plot chart, think of a mountain or a hill. It kind of goes up, it kind of goes down. So let's practice this design. Take your finger, kind of go up and then come down. One more time. You're going to kind of go up like a mountain and come on down. All right. Now let's talk about the top of this mountain. Whenever you're thinking about a narrative story, the top of the mountain is better known as the climax. Right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the highest point of your story where the best action takes place. Okay? Next, coming up the mountain to get to the climax is called the rise in action. The rise in action is also known, or like the events of the story. If you think of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, everything that Goldilocks did before the bears found her in that bed would be the rise in action, better known as events. Next, on the other side of the climax, you have falling action. So if the action goes up, something has to come down. All right? Then you finish it off with your resolution. It is not the end of the story, but how the problem or the challenge was solved in the story. That's the difference. Remember, the resolution is simply how the problem is solved, not the end of the story. Now, before you start the story, you have to have a setting. Okay? The setting is where and when the story took place. Okay? And no problem, no story can have, you cannot have a story without this, a problem, conflict. Okay? Now, I always like to put the conflict next to my setting. And also in this is where the characters will be, right here. So let's kind of review. We have the elements of the plot. We start off with the setting, which tells us when and where the story takes place. All stories have to have one of these, which is the problem. And as we go up, the events that lead to the climax is called the rising actions. And the most exciting part of the story is known as the climax. And then after the climax, we bring it on down with some falling action. And it leads to not the end of the story, but how the problem is solved in the resolution. Okay, what did we learn today? Today you learned how to do the elements of a plot by using a plot chart. Okay, so what would I like for you to do? Today, I would like for you to create your own plot chart. Okay, I want you to make up your own story. All right, and I want you to show me all the elements of a narrative using a plot chart. All right. All right, with that being said, Mr. Nunn loves you. I know that you can do it. We're on the road to greatness. Don't let me down. I know you like a book. And I'm out.